So the topic for today is Hill Climb Racing, a billion download story, and it's not a mistake, it is a billion. I'll show some data later to back it up. But maybe let's start with myself, a little bit of background. So I have over 10 years of industry experience, game development, mostly programming, back-end programming, of course project management, stuff like that. And I have to put it there, I'm a failed entrepreneur. In a past company, I was part owner and we went bankrupt, so done that. Been there, and so a lot of kind of views from many companies. So the way kind of I structured this talk is that there's it's basically 6 years of Fingersoft history kind of diluted into 20 something minutes. So it's fairly kind of overview type, but I have some cool stories and stuff. So first I'll go through Hill Climb Racing 1, how that got started, and then move on to Hill Climb Racing 2, and then kind of sum things up. Yeah, so you can't really talk about Hill Climb Racing without first talking about Tony Fingersoft. So he's the company founder who kind of also had a background in game development and program as well. So we're a really technical company. Our kind of top management is all programmers. So Tony was working in another company before Fingersoft, and that company also failed. So he figured, okay, I'm gonna try one last time, and this time I'm gonna do it by myself. So he figured everybody else is just going to be in the way. So he didn't take anybody in the company, even though people wanted to work with him. But he was like, okay, I'm gonna work by myself. And he had a pretty clear strategy to start with, because he figured that, okay, he needs some way to gain visibility for his games on Android. So he actually said to me that he might have even read this somewhere on the internet before he started, which was that, okay, make some applications which are easy to make and which tie into something popular, then make the actual game and then cross-promote that game from popular apps. This is actually, these days, it's common knowledge, but this was, remember, he was thinking about this stuff in 2010. And so that's what he did. He started making some camera applications back then. Everybody started to have camera in the phone, but there was no really like these filters, which are now like common things, and these are the two most popular ones that he had. So night vision camera, 10 million installs on that, and cartoon camera, 13 million installs on that. And those are, of course, lifetime numbers, but naturally, you don't get a lot of downloads on this kind of applications anymore because all of the filters. Oh yeah, this is just some zooming in. Yeah, and here he started to make the first Hill Climb Racing game. So this is actually a screenshot of the first prototype. So you have the brake on the left and the gas on the right, and too bad I don't have a video of it. I've been trying to get Tony to find me an early build so I could actually show this in action, but that's where things start from. I think if you're a game developer, you know this. Also, looking back at the art style, so the first one on the left is the original main character, Ville. So that's actually drawn by Tony's wife, who's not an artist. She just drew it. So yeah. So Tony kept developing. I think he said it took like 3 months. And if you're one of the 6 other billion people who haven't seen this, I have a trailer on what it looks like. crash. So yeah, so obviously that trailer wasn't from the launch. We didn't have any trailers back then. So, but yeah, so moving on to the actual launch. So here is Google Play data from the launch, and this is the first like September to January, and 22.71 million installs, and the peaking there somewhere in 350 range per day, which was pretty spectacular for a game with no other marketing except for the cross promotion from the camera applications. And interesting thing is the way the actual cross promotion was made. It was just a system dialog in those applications with a Go Play Hill Climb Racing and one button, OK, and that's it. No graphics or anything. Continuing to iOS, similar story, peaking quite quickly, and then 15.7 million downloads on the 1st November to February. So I would call that pretty spectacular launch for a game with pretty much no marketing. Of course, there was some issues as well. This is a story we like to tell, how the moon level actually got born, where if you have played the game, you know that the main way people play it is that once you get the moon level and the bike, you go there and you just do loops so that you earn a lot of coins. And that's actually not originally by design. There was a bug in the game where it was actually supposed to cut the coin earning at some point. But when Toni and Teemu fixed it, people got so angry and the reviews started going down that they had to, okay, let's put it back the way it were. And that kind of generated this gameplay where you grind the coins in the moon level and then use those coins to get the other stuff and go to those levels. I think the economy of the game would have been completely different if this would not have happened. But it's difficult to say if this is actually like bad thing. It's the way it is, and it's worked really well. So looking at the kind of 2012-2014 timeline, there was quite a simple formula for how the game was upkept. Was regular content updates, focus on things which are popular. So people were, of course, all the time sending us feedback that, okay, we want the police car, okay, we want the fire truck, or whatever. And of course, hiring people. So the original game was made wholly by Toni, and then he hired his friend Teemu, who is our current CEO, to make the iOS version, and then from that, the kind of company got started. And you can see some track of all the updates. So basically, all the major versions are new content there, and the other ones are bug fixes. And Windows Phone version was also launched 2013. Interesting side note, it actually did pretty well for us financially. I think we were one of the best games on the platform. Of course, there's no more for Windows Phone, but people still ask us, why don't you do the Windows Phone version? Because I guess there are still people out there with those phones. And looking at kind of longer term, that's the end of 2014. You see there's 217 million, almost 218 million downloads on Android and 44.4 million on iOS. And that's actually there just to show the kind of curve, how it operates. And of course, the spikes are Christmas. Christmases used to be insane at that time. Yeah, so that's kind of Hill Climb Racing 1, and that was up until 2014, and that's why I cut it there, because I started actually my job at Fingersoft as a backend developer back in 2014, January of that year. So the thinking was early on when I joined the company that, okay, we want to make a new game. What should it be? We have this thing, it's working, financially we are secure, we had more money than we could think what to do with, because we were a very small company. So we kind of were thinking what to do. And of course, this question I get asked a lot is, why do a sequel? These days, a lot of people say that you should never do a sequel to games as a service game, because you should just change that because you have the existing audience. But the way it actually went for us was that we weren't supposed to make a sequel. We were just making another hill climb racing game in kind of with the same IP, but it was supposed to be hill climb racing something. And of course, we are very juvenile. We make games for a living, so we called it working name Hill Climb Racing WC. So Europeans will know that this is a toilet, but well, we had actually in the game like World Cup. But yeah, anyways, we had some fairly clear goals from the outset. So we wanted to have multiplayer in some form, improved tech and graphics. So we used really old version of Cogos 2DX engine back then for Hill Climb Racing 1, which we actually had modified ourselves, so we couldn't even easily upgrade it. Also, better KPIs across the board. So Hill Climb Racing 1 is hugely popular, gets tons of downloads to this day. Actually, funnily enough, it's doing more downloads this year than last year, so still doing well. But the kind of way it works is that you get good ad revenues, but you don't get a lot of in-app purchases just because people will just buy the one package and then go play the moon level, and then you can survive without paying ever again. And that's just the way the game is built. So we wanted to kind of create something which is the economy is in balance and works better also. So we could move a little bit of the focus from the ads towards having a cleaner kind of a cleaner UI and all that stuff. And of course, we already like recognized in that time that we want to have good live ops. So what that means from technical perspective is that we wanted to have configurability in the game code so that we can actually have a live ops server, change the game. So if we want to have events or whatever, well, everybody knows this these days, but back then it wasn't obvious. So we want to have that from the outset. So starting development, here's some old graphics. We went with the way we always work is make the core gameplay, which was, okay, we want to have multiplayer. We tried out, having the cars being able to crash into each other, and okay, maybe we should have real time. And then finally ending up with just the asynchronous multiplayer where we actually record all the drives, and then we use algorithm to pick good opponents for you and just play back the previous drives. So they actually are no bots. We didn't generate even in the beginning any drives. It's all like real player drives, but played back. So technically, I guess, depends what you want to call it. And there's some interesting graphics there for how some of the versions looked with the car selection and all that. But in the end, when we had the version where you have the asynchronous multiplayer and the ghosts which are not interacting, that was for us the most fun version. So okay, we went with that. And funny story again, we did a soft launch 2 months before the actual launch, and what happened was the Chinese got hold of the APK, and in 2 days we got 600,000 downloads, and we couldn't handle it, so we had to ban the whole of China from the game. So because it was just a soft launch, so all the servers weren't in place, stuff like that. So that was kind of a good indication for us that maybe this will work pretty well. We were quite worried because it's a sequel. You never know how things will go. So yeah. So again, of course, I have a trailer. What else? I'm really proud of this one.
In a world where one man climbed hills alone for far too long, Ville is back, and he's not alone.
Welcome to Hill Climb Racing 2. It's bigger. It's better. And it's much funner. With crazy customization. And insane multiplayer. Welcome to Hill Climb Racing 2.
Yeah. Yeah, we went with this Hollywood style. So. Worked really well. I think we have, I don't even remember, well, millions of views on that. Yeah, so again, back to the data. As you can see, the curve for the downloads is much, much steeper than for Hill Climb 1. And of course, the coming down is also a little bit kind of steeper, but hitting 1 million downloads in single day there was quite awesome. And we were not expecting this. Actually, we had a lot of problems with our servers because we had planned to scale up to maybe 2 times, 3 times what we saw on Hill Climb 1, and ended up getting like I think it was something like 200,000 concurrent players at launch, quite consistently at the peak times of the day. So quite insane. And what the interesting part is also like where it kind of levels off is basically where it stays is that Hill Climb Racing 1 leveled off somewhere at the 300,000 a day range, above. And Hill Climb Racing 2 leveled off somewhere in the 200K, a little bit under range, where it has stayed ever since. So we think this is kind of an indication that okay, the launch, and then what it kind of stays with is the organic. Because, one important thing to note is that we used minimal UA for launch. We are an organic company. We have been always quite bad at UA, so this is pretty much all organic and from the cross promotion. So obviously we had Hill Climb Racing 1 cross promotions on, and this time we had good tech. You can show nice promotions, and also from all other applications and games we had out there, we kind of advertised this, so you get the maximum exposure there. iOS shows similar things, so not quite as huge difference to Hill Climb Racing 1, but still 600K above peak day there at launch. So I would call that a quite nice reach on iOS. So those were kind of the games and the launches, because I have fairly limited time, so I kind of left it at that. You could go in much more detail on the long term and how things pan out, but what we ended up was this. So this number is just from, I have it down there, April this year. We were waiting for it, and we had a big party in Oulu. We had a band and everything, so it was awesome. But the interesting thing here is you can see like the separation. We have never shown this before, but you can see the green is Hill Climb Racing 1 and different platforms, and then blue is Hill Climb Racing 2, and then we have a Chinese special version which we tried out at some point, which is more like localized to Chinese audiences. Funnily enough, the actual original Hill Climb Racing 2 has worked pretty much better than the Chinese localized version for some strange reason. So that kind of ends up being something like that. Of course, these change every second, so you just have to pick some point where you want to cut it. Okay, I always say this is a little bit of cheating because it's all Hill Climb Racing games, but marketing people tell me, shut up. So just use it. We're probably going to have another party when the Hill Climb Racing 1 alone reaches the billion, so it's going to be probably next year. Financial side, looking at this end of last year, we went to around 40 million euros net generated from Hill Climb Racing 1 and to about 25 million euros generated from Hill Climb Racing 2 net. So okay for a small Finnish game developer. Some of the things we learned, of course, there would be, you could write a book about it, but in our case, we kind of think ourselves as these games as a service developers. So we make big projects. It took us almost 2 years to make Hill Climb Racing 2, but we kind of feel that it's worth the effort because these games look like you can run them, 5-6 years easy. So for us, it makes sense. Of course, there's a lot of good strategies if you want to go making small games fast. That's fine if you can do it, but we're slow. Cross promotion works very well, but not always. We have We used to publish third-party games as well, much more. Now we have a publishing company called Round Zero, which we founded last year, but we published like 12 games overall and used cross-promotion, of course, in all of them. And it turns out that it's quite specific when it does work. So you get, of course, you get the impressions, but to get the conversions to install, that's the difficult part. Games like Fail Hard, which is no longer out there, worked really well, but then other games didn't. And sequels, so of course people ask me about cannibalization. The interesting thing here is that we set out to do a game which is a little bit to the side from Hellcomers. So it's not specifically the same audience. It has a lot of the same things, but it has competitive aspects to it. So what we notice is Hellcomers 1 is still going strong. I think big reason is that it's an offline game, so you can play it, whenever you want, airplane or you don't have internet somewhere. Whereas Fingersoft 2, the main kind of thing is the multiplayer side, so you have to be online for that, which narrows down the audience somewhat. But for what we can tell so far, almost 1.5 years, or is it over? Thereabouts from Hellcomers 2 launch is that both are coexisting well, and we actually continue to make new things for both games. We actually have a really cool level coming up for Hellcomers 1, which is going to be probably the best level so far. Oh yeah, down there's some screenshots where there's actually this link we built between the games. So if you go to Hellcomers 1, there's a multiplayer featured quite prominently, which actually is just a link to the store or to the game if you have it installed. And then other way around, Hellcomers 2, there's like more from us, which is less prominent, of course, because this is the kind of main title right now. So we want the traffic to be a little bit one-sided. But that works well. We get constant stream of users from between the games, and that works out really well for us. Yeah, I think that's most of it. I think I spoke a little bit faster than I was planning to, but I think we can move on to questions.
All right, guys, we have like 5 minutes.